Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am Jordan Strudwick. I'm here with the Dr. Sriram Nagaraj, Chief Technology Officer of Zimbali, the creators of Orocash. Today, our topic is how artificial intelligence and Hashgraph power our financial services. Dr. Nagaraj, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you, Jordan?
I'm doing great. You were out at Afrotech earlier today.
I am. Right? I'm actually currently still there in the community center, just taking going on to the sidelines for this session, and I might head back there too. So it's been wonderful. Awesome. Afrotech has been awesome.
That's awesome. So we're live from Afrotech.
Indeed, yes.
Talking about AI and Hedera Hashgraph and what we're building. So Dr. Nagaraj, you want to take
Sure. So what I wanted to perhaps focus on today is sort of two related points. One is the potential for how one might use AI machine learning algorithms for doing a variety of tasks with DLT, Hedera specifically, and also some of the things that we at Zimbali are specifically thinking about actively incorporating. So to start off, I just wanted to make some general remarks. So whenever you're talking about AI or machine learning tasks, one of the most important things is to identify what it is that you're trying to achieve using AI, right? And what are the variables or features, as they're called, that go into the modeling to perform the tasks that you're interested in. So we call this, feature extraction or feature engineering. Basically, what it means is, extracting the relevant information from the variables that go into the AI task. This could be anything from what we call supervised learning, or predicting something with the data that you have, or generally gleaning analytics type information, just seeing how things are correlated, and getting information from that as well. So when we're talking about Hashgraph, the Hedera platform specifically, some of the variables that go into the AI models that we have in mind are things like the frequency, volume of transactions, addresses to and from addresses where transactions are sent to. If I have a wallet, what are the typical addresses with whom I transact with? These are very important pieces of information. Now, Hedera, with its increased capacity for transactions per second, puts us at an advantage with the use of AI models, because what this means is that we're actually able to generate a higher volume of data that we can actually back relevant information to feed our AI models. And so instead of waiting in order to generate a certain volume of data, and we'd have to wait for lesser time, basically. And so again, this scales well with the increased as people start adopting Hedera more and more. You actually grow sort of exponentially in terms of the data that you generate, and but as a corollary, are able to get better and better models. And so that's actually another very important reason why we want to stick with the Hedera platform. So standard in inverted quotes AI applications, typically that you see in not even just DeFi, but just in general financial with financial data, is a typical example is fraud detection. So how do you label fraudulent transactions? And nowadays, typically you use machine learning models to do this. So one type of fraudulent transaction is, let's say you had a wallet which is largely dormant, but suddenly makes a huge volume of transactions all of a sudden to a bunch of different addresses, right? So that's sort of a very obvious red flag or an obvious sort of fraudulent transaction that you might want to have a machine learning model pick out. An example of something which is less apparent is a case where someone's wallet has been stolen, but this was a wallet that was actually used for, sort of standard transactions happening every so often. So pretty benign transactions, but the wallet is now confiscated by someone else. So what this might mean is that you would have a situation where a completely different set of recipient wallets might be activated because, let's say my wallet is stolen by someone else. They start transacting with another group of wallets with whom I had actually never transacted with in the past. So again, these are the kinds of situations that you may want to that you might come across within this fraud sort of detecting fraudulent models. And so again, this is an application that people use even with standard finance. It doesn't even have to. It could be even just credit card stuff. Now, why is this particularly important with in the DeFi space is because just the kind of sort of transactions that happen in the volume and the frequency are totally different within the DeFi context. So it's really important to have adequate fraud detection type models built in. Under the hood, what's actually happening is sort of non-standard applications of things like unsupervised learning. So let me give you an example here. Let's say you actually want to cluster or sort of group similar transactional footprints together. So let's say you had consumers who buy similar products or services, or vendors who sell similar products or services, and you want to sort of just group them together just purely based on transactional information. Again, volume, frequency, and other wallets with which they transact. So you kind of can define what similar means. So similar might mean transactions or wallets that have similar kind of volumes or similar kind of frequencies, that kind of thing. So this would basically give insight into the consumer vendor behavior on the Hedera platform. And then you can actually use this information for directed marketing. So in other words, based on just all of this information, you can actually build some kind of recommender system, which would basically say, okay, so these kinds of wallets are most likely going to, transact in a certain way, and therefore we can craft marketing campaigns for these specific types of wallets, and the same thing for vendors as well. So again, this is pretty standard machine learning stuff, like collaborative filtering or recommender systems have been around for a very long time. But what is interesting to me is using those standard machine learning AI models, but being powered by the data that's coming off of Hashgraph. That's where the interesting stuff happens. So how do you sort of use existing or well understood machine learning models, but in this new domain? I think that's where the action and also the challenges are. Another example that we're actually very actively thinking about is credit scoring and microfinance. I know I've talked about this several times in the past, but this is actually worth repeating. So because Zimbali is all about community and building inclusivity, community-based inclusivity, financial inclusion. It's having a very strong AI-based sort of almost like a microfinancing, arm itself is something really, really important to us. And so, again, using transactional information, one can back out alternate credit scores. And people have actually started thinking about this pretty seriously. But where we kind of differ uniquely is layering that on top of the community perspective. So the example that I like to give is, let's say you had a group of I typically say rickshawallas in India. So these are people who are daily wage workers, who transact with cash. So imagine they were all onboarded onto the Zimbali platform, and overnight they stopped using cash, right? And they started transacting with the Zimbali wallet. Well, these people are, as I said, daily wage workers, so they get, basically based on their services, like, do they actually transport people in their rickshaws? So rickshaws are kind of like, three-wheel taxis from place A to place B, and then they get, paid for it. And so you can use all of this transactional information to back out alternate credit scores for people who otherwise would not even be able to go to a bank and say, knock, knock, here, I want a line of credit for sending my son to college. These are people who probably don't even have bank accounts, period. And so what you can do alternatively is build a community of similar kind of people on the platform, and they can actually help finance each other, because once you're on the platform, you can back out how you can sort of say, based on, again, the example that I give is, let's say I was a rickshawala who for 10 years have been buying a chai in the afternoon every single day. That's a very important piece of information, because that tells me that as a rickshaw, I'm actually worth at least whatever that value for that chai was. I've been making consistent payments towards that chai every single day. And so that actually can be used to back out a potential line of credit that I'm actually worth. And instead of going to a bank, we can actually have other rickshawallas in the network sort of pool resources together, so that I can receive a loan, and the platform can actually also be used to set up repayment structures back to the users of the network. So it's a very powerful way of using AI for this kind of microfinancing, using transactional data from the network. And so you kind of have to use an AI model here, because standard credit scoring models simply don't apply in this situation. So these are the kinds of things that we are actively thinking about. And so again, because we're building on Hedera, all of the stuff that you can do with AI with DLT sort of becomes supercharged, because again, with all the positive advantages of using Hedera that we have spoken about last time as well. So.
Thank you, Sriram. So you talked about fraud detection, which I think most people will understand just from having, a Visa card or conventional type of card, kind of how that works. You then talked about directed recommendations for vendors and businesses that will allow them to craft marketing campaigns to the owners of specific types of wallets. Can you delve a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. So again, imagine in this sort of simplistic example, you have basically transactional metadata, right? So you have transaction frequency, volume, and the set of wallets with which the given wallet transacts with most commonly. So with this, what you can actually do is, okay, how many other wallets are similar with these characteristics what other wallets are similar to this given wallet. And so what you can do is do any number of machine learning models to address this particular problem. They all generally fall into this category of unsupervised or semi-supervised models. And so you can actually find other wallets on the network that are very similar to this one. And then from there, you can be like, oh, okay, so these sort of salient features are what characterize these kinds of wallet behavior. And so that with that information, you can actually see what kind of behaviors are common behavioral patterns are followed by these kinds of wallets. And if that is the case, how can I, develop a marketing strategy or marketing campaign to that is focused or directed to these kinds of wallets. And so it's kind of like a two-step procedure. You first identify the salient features of the types of transactions and groups the wallets on the platform based on the kinds of behaviors. And part two is use that information to develop directed ads at sort of these different levels or different groups of wallets.
Okay, that makes sense. That's very cool. And then you also talked about credit and lending and microfinance,
yes,
and empowering people to sort of examine each other's creditworthiness and support each other as lenders, so that they can
I love you, right?
make reliable investments in other members of their community. Did I express that correctly?
Yes. So in other words, we want to create on Zimbali's platform, we want to be able to allow people, users, to help one another directly, financially, to drive inclusion based on the network or based on the community that they're a part of on the network.
You're such a good dog. And we match so well today.
Awesome. And so you said people who are in community with each other. So
Correct.
What if somebody outside of the community wanted to invest in that community? Would they also be able to access that data, or would it be siloed within the community?
Yeah, so I mean, if you are, let's say, a potential investor in the community, you can, request metadata from that community and be. This is where we can actually build in sort of. I know we've talked about this earlier as well, the quick bank idea, but instead of investing through one particular wallet, you can also have a quick bank where investors can invest directly in an entire collection of wallets or an entire community. And so, if one registers as with that kind of structure, then potential investors would have access to the metadata that they would need in order to drive decisions.
Wow, that's groundbreaking. That's groundbreaking stuff. Well, thank you for that deep introduction to the way that artificial intelligence and machine learning work together with the Hashgraph to power financial services. So is there any detail that you'd want to go into on how specifically the powers and capabilities of the Hashgraph, specifically as distinct from other distributed ledger technologies, empower the implementation of machine learning for customer benefit?
Sure, yeah. I think I alluded to this slightly earlier. So in terms of, just, the possibility of a order of magnitude more transactions per second by itself opens up, higher volumes of basically data that's being generated on the platform. You'll hear that more data doesn't always translate to better models, and this is actually true. But in this case, you actually have more data, but relevant data. This is not totally just random noise that you're generating. This is actually a higher volume of transactional data. So you can actually build more specific, more accurate, more efficient machine learning models because of this alone, right? So that's one. The second thing is because of the ABFT guarantees on the Hedera platform, this increases the security aspect of the entire network. And so the machine learning models that you build naturally inherit the increased sort of security guarantees on the Hedera platform. And three, recall that Hedera consensus is driven by gossip about gossip, right? And so far we've been talking about just AI models built from a consumer-facing perspective. But if you look at the Hedera platform itself, the consensus itself, one can, sort of build in, and again, this is more for Hedera to do, but I'm sure they're actually probably already either thinking about it actively or actually have started building this out. But there's a lot of analytics that one can actually do from Hedera side itself with simply the gossip protocol. And so yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of things that are specific to Hedera itself.
Thank you, Dr. Nagaraj. And unless there's anything else you'd like to share, I think that we have gone deep, and we've really unearthed some of the ways that AI and ML and Hedera, really the combination of those technologies, creates a whole bevy of opportunities to serve communities with financial services. And so, if there's anything else you'd like to share with that, we will close up this space. Thank you to those who came and joined us today. We'll be posting this recording on our Twitter timeline, as well as on YouTube, and soon Apple Podcasts. And so we look forward to engaging with you on all those platforms. And as always, if you'd like to get rich, go alone. But if you would like to build wealth,
thank you.
Come with us. Peace.
Thank you.